Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Speedplay Papal Italy number 7. We left off still in the middle of our Great War. We have really cleaned things up a lot. We are finishing off one of the last major fronts with enemy action in it. Our forces begin moving around to just destroy whatever remains of the enemy armies. It looks as though we'll be able to clean them all up, and from there just begin to more or less peacefully, or at least straightforwardly, go ahead and just occupy the areas. The Dutch come back with a vengeance, however. Overall, it looks as though the war has calmed down at this point. All that's left is waiting for the jingoism required to actually offer or make and offer a peace deal. So until then, we go ahead and take a look. We could change our research group to one that would increase our industry. We could go ahead and decide not to just yet. Realistically, I may just keep us with a traditional research group or move into military-industrial complex once that becomes available. At any rate, besides a few small and isolated events where the enemy is actually making decent progress, we just focus on continuing the occupation of the North German Confederation, moving a large group of armies down through the Ottoman Empire, and keeping our 3 armies in Africa more or less intact and doing their own thing. Now, with all that said and done, there is just a matter of picking what technology to get, and beyond that, there's really no large-scale plan to it at this point, as we've already proven that our military is really just good enough to conquer the world, and our economy is doing fairly well. Admittedly, we have been hemorrhaging money the entire time we're at war. That's really a usual thing. However, that does mean that realistically it won't be feasible for us to continue to be at war indefinitely at this point. Now, luckily, none of the remaining great powers have declared war on us for our infamy, and we may just attempt to make peace with everyone and then see how long that peace will last, building up our stockpiles as we do so. Now, how this will all work, who's really to say? But we are in a pretty good spot. You'll notice that we do still have an election happening right now. We really will always just have an election, just constantly, in the hopes that we will get the jingoism events that will let us peace out of this war. For example, you'll notice that we have been occupying Germany quite a lot. I don't actually have any war goals I want from Germany. I just don't want them to build up independently while we're still fighting everyone else in the world. I imagine that would cut short, very short, the amount of time we would be at peace, as 5 years after we peace out with them, I kind of expect them to just join the war against us again, or a new war against us again. So instead we siege them, as well as the Greeks, and really everything else in the world. Except the Russians, who notably have not declared against us. And they were our previous ally. It looks as though they are, if not loyal to us, as they did break the alliance, then at least they're not outright hostile. At least not yet. Now, since we do have more than 25 infamy, we can almost certainly assume that it's just a matter of time before the Russians attack. However, I'm also still completely fine with the thought that they just might not. Military-industrial complex has become available. That would actually be a good thing to get. However, we've already researched all the military techs available to us, so even if we are going to get it, we won't get it until 1900. And even then, probably we would wait a bit instead and use that extra time in order to get one of the philosophical groups, or really just a few other technologies, before getting military tech. Or a military-industrial complex, and also military techs. So moving on, you'll notice, even going 6 times speed, I kind of had to ramble a bit as we occupied all of these territories, and that's simply because it is a profoundly, really just straightforward and almost tedious part of the war. I really do dislike the requirement for jingoism in order to actually make peace deals. I have my own personal modded version of Victoria 2 in which I actually just removed that requirement because it is just incredibly tedious to deal with. Now, moving forward still, we have made it through most of Anatolia, or Anatolia, depending on how you like to pronounce that. And we are really just fighting the occasional battle still. Once again, though, we're really lucky that the new mod, or not new mod, the beta patch has actually taken care of most of the issues in this game, and at the same time made election events nationwide. As that's really the one amazing thing I can say, as it has taken jingoism events and made it from just statewide things to national things, which means that we can actually just stay in these wars until realistically having a good chance at getting the jingoism event we need. Speaking of, it appears we got the jingoism event we need. So we can just add war goals to everybody. A quick little note, if you add a war goal, it doesn't lower your jingoism until the next day. So what we're going to do, we've paused it, and we're just adding war goals against everybody. We already had 2 war goals against the French, which is very, very nice, as that means we just need to add the 3rd in order to get all of the lands we want from them. We also only wanted 2 things from Austria. We add that. We add another war goal to Portugal. And really every single country we're at war with, not including the North German Confederation, we go ahead and just add a war goal to. Because really we have 9 diplomatic power, which means we can just negotiate with 9 countries immediately. So we go ahead and do that. And with that all said and done, we'll continue the sieges with a new upbeat tone, because all of a sudden the tedium has a point. In the very worst of cases, we still get all of the lands we just added, which is a solid 8 or 9 war goals, and that's just very nice. We also, since we did add a war goal against the Portuguese, we'll probably want to go ahead and actually attack them. We go ahead and call another election just because, well, we can. The British attack us, and it looks as though we'll be able to defeat them. And we do, which is great. We follow up and stack wipe them. And then split the armies up to just reinforce, and they'll probably just reinforce until the end of the war. Now we're actually at a good enough spot that I'm really considering just sitting back and going at a higher speed, increasing the chances that we'll get the jingoism event at any point. Now, we hadn't really been able to do this, and I was too cautious to, while we still had armies moving around. Now our armies really aren't moving around. We'll just deal with the occasional enemy rebellion, and from here be in a pretty good spot. We start moving everyone back into Europe, as the war, at least the part where we fight it, is nearly done. We do get another jingoism event, so we add another slew of war goals to all of the countries we're still fighting. And I don't actually add anything to Austria because we already have everything that we want from the Austrians. So we do add to the Ottomans and Portugal, Great Britain as well, and also the Netherlands and France. And that's basically it. We go ahead and accept the French peace deal. They now will no longer have any Mediterranean coast in Europe. They do still have the Algerian coast. And from here, we're going to just start landing troops on the Portuguese so that we may ultimately force them into accepting peace. The North Germans want peace. I'm considered to accept that. And we just keep moving our forces forward. We peace out with the Greeks. They now only have 1 province left, which means we can annex them in the next war. We can still offer peace to the Ottomans. However, it's such a low war score amount, I kind of want to wait as long as possible. However, with everything as close to done as it is, we can really go about the process of making peace in the very near future. The Netherlands offers peace, not accepting what we want, or actually, yes, accepting what we want. They first offered a deal where they didn't, however, we then made peace with the Swiss. And just like that, we are at peace now. We've taken every war goal we were able to add, cleaning up Africa quite a bit, really doing a lot. We finally start to open all of our factories and subsidize them again. We never stopped subsidies, but now we have a lot of new lands to subsidize. And here you can see for just a brief moment the new borders we've got, and we might very well just carve out the rest of the Mediterranean coast. Or honestly, we could just call the campaign here, as we have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that we can beat all of our neighbors and more or less the world. At any rate, here's the casualty lists. 400,000 Italians, almost 1 million French, 300,000 Italians, almost 600,000 Austrians. Overall, that's 700,000 losses on our part, around 800,000 losses in total. You'll notice every war we have around half the casualties, except for this war, where it brings us over 1 million losses in total, but the British have more than 1 million losses in this war alone.